all right. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Hi, Alex. Hello, everyone. I'm Motion Bug. I see you're in here, rocking and rolling. So, as usual, let's just make sure we've got good video. I see good video. You guys are going to have to let me know about audio specifically. I'm using even a different microphone. Yeah, audio is perfect. All right, so good volume, good everything on your guys' side. You don't need to turn anything up. Okay, audio is good. All right, I see from goodbye from Mexico. Thanks for coming in. Wavy gravy, thank you. Ian, I saw your question come through. Can you use a remesh to create some sacred geometry in a ring, and then let's see, and then throw in some booleans? Sure. You can use, yeah, I use a remesh a ton to do stuff. Especially also for something like jewelry. There's just so many repeating things for something like that as well. So actually, going into today's discussion and what we're going to be doing for today's stream, we're going to do, actually, let me move this up. Let's see if I can move this. It's being blocked. Somehow the positioning. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can move that program that's showing you guys my shortcuts. Give me a sec, because I just see now that my title bar is there. It's blocking it a little bit for you guys. So let me see. I got to figure out how to select this again. Where are you? There you are. It's not. Hold on. Let me minimize. It's not letting me move it. Let me see if I can. I don't. It's not letting me move it. Oh well. Okay. Okay. So this stream's going to be all about questions. So it's going to be like an Ask ZBrush Live. So a lot of you might put in questions through, obviously, the Ask ZBrush tag through Twitter. Okay. So I'm going to cover some questions that have been put already in there. And then as we're going along here for this stream, I'm going to be taking your guys' questions, i.e. what Ian's asking right now. He's asking because he has a student who's working on that this week. So Ian, if you have something, maybe an example too of an image that you can share in the chat, that'll help too. And that would also help give a visual for everybody else and give a visual for me or something that's trying to be creative. So if you got something that you can share, that would be also very helpful. And throw a link in the chat that we can all click on and take a look. So what I'm going to do is cover some questions again, and then take questions as we're going here with you guys, okay? And then we're just going to be firing away, all cylinders. So take whatever you got to do for notes, however you got to take your notes, figure that out, and then go from there, right? And then we will be rocking and rolling and covering a lot of things. So let me get into my pre-questions that you guys have asked. So we're going to start with something, we're going to start with this one. So someone sent in, how can I use the Transpose Smart Mask Brush? This is I think a little hidden gem. Especially, it's really for hard surfacing. Okay? So I'm going to undo this, and to Alex, no. It's not possible to do what you want to do, no. So this brush, okay, so there are a couple transpose brushes now. So obviously there are, hold on, let me get my brush palette higher. Okay, so when I hit the B for the brush palette, there's actually 3 transpose brushes now. So you got your normal transpose, which is going to be everyone's default. Now there's a cloth one for the dynamics, because now you can use transpose to do stuff with the dynamics. Okay, and then this is the one that the person's actually asking about. How do you use this transpose smart, and what's the point of it? Okay, so let me just start first with the regular one. Okay, because it's about the masking. Okay, so that's where the difference is going to come into play. So let's load this guy just so we have something different, and I'm going to solo this out. So the only thing we're looking at is him. Okay. And now I want to be able to, through here, okay, I want to just mask along the topology. So this is what the default gizmo is doing. You can see it's in essence walking down the topology for masking. Because obviously if I wanted to pose an arm, I would want to base it upon that topology flow that's happening, right? So I'm just holding control and then clicking, and as I keep dragging my hand down, you can see my cursor keeps moving, right? And there you go, right? So that's what this one is doing, okay? Now, the other one is doing something very different. So I'm going to go back to this because it's really for hard surface. That's what it was built for. And it was built for using it with things like the clip brushes and the trim brushes and things like that as well, okay? So this is what I'm going to do, is switch now to this brush now, the new one, which is our transpose part. Again, I was working on a different resolution. I got to get used to this smaller resolution now. So here you go, right this, right? The transpose smart, okay? And what this is going to do is something more like what we have here. So this has got a flat surface. So when I grow the masking, it's now looking at the normals all facing the same direction, right? So you can see that all those normals, because they're all part of that flat surface, are all now being masked off. That's what this one does. It's to help with this ability to mask based upon plane shifts, in essence, okay? And then I can even add to this masking, right? So if I want to come up here, right, same thing, I'm holding control and I click, you see it just starts to do another mask, right? And again, it's looking at plane shifts, and then it's stopping right here because this part of the model, right here, is a completely different normal direction. It's perpendicular, so it's not being masked off. That's the point of this, okay? So what's nice is I can actually even start a mask like this, that I can come here and do the same thing, right? So, well, and say I want to start masking again here, but now I want to add, right? So now I'm adding to the existing mask that and then if I keep moving and moving, you can see the mask just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, because now in essence, by me moving my hand further and further and further away from that first normal vertex I clicked on, I'm telling it to keep evaluating, keep evaluating, keep evaluating, and keep evaluating, okay? So that's what's doing this, okay? And no, you can't. Close holes is always going to do triangles. You'd have to use the ZRemesher to turn it into quads. So the close hold algorithm's going to do triangles. There's no way to make it do with just quads. So again, let me start with this again. We're in the different transpose. We're in the transpose smart, okay, because that was the question that came through. I'm holding control and I'm just clicking, dragging. And then obviously this is giving the flat side here all masked, right? And now if I want to add and keep adding to this masking, I'm going to hold control, I'm going to click somewhere else on the mesh, and then I'm going to switch my finger to only shift. So you can see now I'm only holding the shift key. Right? And so that's the benefit to that. Okay? So that's what you guys are going to be able to do as far as using that. Okay? So that's how that works. I'm going to see actually, let me see. Let me give this one more try if I can. Right click. Let's see if I can move it. I got to remember how to use this again. I'm just seeing if I can quickly change the location for us. Because my screen, let's see, give me 1 sec. I'm going to see on screen display, position. And now I don't have it to come up. Yep. Oh well, guys, I don't have time to see why that moved on us. Okay, right? So in essence, if you are taking something like this, you know, just taking some design-wise, right? And then we throw something like dynamesh at this, okay? And now we've got a dynamesh surface. And then now I want to start using, say, something like the clip curves and you want to start clipping things, right? You now have the ability, if you're going to switch to this, you can mask off, see, portions of the model, right? So I can re-dynamesh and then grow that and then add to that. And see how it keeps growing? If I keep pulling, it keeps growing. Okay? So that's what that's doing. And that's actually built in also Spotlight, right? So if I take an image, let's just select an image here. So I'll just select this one. Let's add that to Spotlight. All right. And let's go to the textures here. Let's let these images load. Let's load a couple images here. Okay. And I'm going to say, let's do this. All right. So let's go in here. Okay. And do this kind of a thing. Now what I can actually do is switch to paint in Spotlight, and it allows me to paint, right? So you can see right now I'm painting with white. Right here, let's pick a brighter color. Let's pick some kind of brighter color. There we go, like that. Okay. What you can actually do is the same thing, right? You can see when you're in paint, I can actually grow the painting inside of Spotlight as well. Okay, so now you have this ability. Okay, and then now obviously the benefit to this is if we switch it to, instead of like this blue, and we switch to black, okay, pure black, as you can see, is transparent, right? So this is going to allow me to, in essence, mask out portions of the image. And you can see the same thing, as I move further and further away, it tries to evaluate the surface more, and then you can do stuff like this, right? So this is kind of that same thing that's built in there. Okay? So that's what that's doing. All right? So there's that question answered for us. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Right? But let me see, I saw something come through. Hold on, let me look up my Ruben, the best thing is, that's a lot of back and forth. We need to do a lot of things for your system. So I would probably send in a support. I would make a conversation in our support to Ruben, so we can go back and forth with you and do some looking at what could be your problem. It's too hard to tell you. I don't know. I got to find out a lot of information from you. So I couldn't give you anything really, per se. Okay. Okay, so your question is about when you're making closed holes, right? So his question or her question is, when they're doing closed holes, okay, you're getting triangles, right? So I'll just do it with the trim curve because it's using closed holes anyways, right? So you're getting, say, something like this, okay? And now you want quads here. The only thing you're going to be able to do is use ZRemesher. Okay, that's going to be, well, in essence, the fastest way, besides obviously retopologizing this, right? So you can use ZRemesher based upon polygrouping with one click, but if you only, based upon your question, you only want to remesh this one piece, this blue part, that's easy actually. You would just click on this blue part right here and actually use the ZRemesher, okay? But then this is what the freeze border is for. So you would turn that on, and then you'd remesh. And then what the remesher is going to do is look at the border edges and start there and make sure, okay, that the vertex points don't change along those border edges. So then this is what you would get, because it's got to go and say, well, I'm remeshing, but you see this topology over here is still got to be connected, right? And then, of course, this topology's got triangles and quads in it, right? And there's different vertex pointing along here, and that's why you're going to get the geometry like this around the edge, because I told it to. I told it I need to freeze that edge border, but at least now you're quadded. If that's what you're looking for, this is a possibility. Now, if I do the same thing without freeze border, you can remesh, okay? And then you'll get something probably more what you're looking at, but we still got to weld it, right? So you can see there's actually 2 polygroups here now, right? So then this is what you're going to get if you don't turn on the freeze border when you're looking at just a chunk of something for remeshing. So this might be helpful for you, depending what way you want to go. You either freeze your border and then do that, or you turn the freeze border off, and then this is what you get. So you'd get cleaner geometry like through here, right? But it's got to still weld everything back together for us, right? We need this to all be connected. So it's creating an actual some more other topology there for you. Okay, so that's the 2 ways you can do it. Of course, for me, if something I'm using close hole as well, and I just want to change this up, obviously I like to use my old keep groups, right? And then I remesh this. And so obviously the whole yellow is being evaluated and the blue part's being evaluated. And then when I get back from my remesher, I'm going to get something that's looking at the blue, right? So now I see I can get an edge that's perfectly along that blue. And then the yellow is just obviously remeshed. So hopefully that answers your question, okay? If that helps. Doug, nice Doug. I wish I knew Doug. Okay, so my next question that came through on the wire, I'm going to start calling it the wire, right, is, let me just move a model all the way so we see the question completely, is how to hollow out a mesh with a hole down the middle. Okay, so I'm assuming this person, their question was really long, and I couldn't, obviously, they wanted a cylinder, then they wanted to hollow out the cylinder, and then they wanted a hole in, and then they wanted to close the tops, right? And they're using dynamesh. Okay, here's something for me, guys, for all of you. I no longer at all use dynamesh to do all this stuff like, say, articulation, making, keying, if I need to. And we're going to get to a question down the line where I'm going to give you an example. Welding things together. I don't use dynamesh for any of that anymore at all. And I know a lot of us are still using dynamesh to do that kind of stuff. And hopefully in this stream, you're going to see here, specifically also with this question, why I don't use dynamesh anymore. Okay? I'll use dynamesh for a certain part here. Okay? But I do no longer use the way when dynamesh was first made, especially for those that have 3D printers and things like that. We were putting a bunch of meshes together and then using dynamesh so they would weld. I don't do dynamesh for that at all anymore. Nope. Not me. That's not what I do it for. And I'm going to show you a couple things here, starting with this question. Okay? So I think what this person's probably looking at is taking, let's just take us, I would say, let's even if they're not, this is something maybe that you guys then will get to understand the challenging part of this, right? So I'm going to make a cylinder that has an inner hole going through it down the center, right? Okay. And then my spans, you know, I don't really care about my spans per se, because I'm going to divide this up, because obviously I want to do a little something with this cylinder. So let's say we've got something like this. We've got a cylinder that's got a hole going through it. And now I want to create also inside, I want a shelling to happen. Okay? So in essence, I want some thickness to start happening in there. Okay? So a lot of us will do this, okay, in our sense. And I'm going to, let's divide this up a little bit just so it's clean. We have some nice clean topology so it looks more like that. Okay, and then a lot of us are going to go, hey, I need now to put some hollowing in this cylinder. But then the added thing is it's got a hole going through it. Okay, so we will say, let's even go in the mode, because part of that question they were asking was with dynamesh. So let's just dynamesh it. So now I don't have a, you know, clean topology in the sense it's got some density here. It's not all perfectly quadded like it just was before I turned it into dynamesh. You know, we're at 90,000-ish. So we were at 151 divided, and then now I'm at like 90,000. But you can see, obviously, I got nice quadding going through here. Then we get up here, you got some quads. And there'll be points where maybe, like down here, we've got some triangles. Okay? So in essence, I want to create a shell. And let's say I want to create a shell for this for 3D printing. Now, this is really why I'm saying it's important for you all. So normally I would have something that's very detailed. In fact, let's throw some details on this. Let's grab some standard brush and let's just throw some detailing on this outside here. Let's also push it in a little bit. And in fact, let's even go up more in resolution, and then so that we can even get a little bit more detailing, get something a little bit better. Let's throw just something simple on this so we have a visual idea of what I'm going to do here. Let's make that arrow really look up, look down. Okay, so now I've got, like, you know, sculpting in and out, right? We've got different surfaces here. See, I've got sculpting now inside here. I've got sculpting outside here. I got a lot of stuff, okay? So now what I do is I'm not concerned about the detailing, say, of this model and trying to hollow it out based upon this detailing. I just need a hollowed out surface. So in essence, the hollowed out surface, the inside part, which no one's ever going to see unless they break the 3D print in this case, right? If we're talking about a 3D print, okay? So all I really care about is just creating a shell for me. That's all I'm looking for, right? So this is, and in some cases, I know, John, I see you're in here. You might have something where you're seeing a couple million in Dynamesh, and then you guys are trying to weld things together and maintain all your sculpted detail. We're going to get to this a little bit later. This is why I don't do it through Dynamesh anymore. And there's a question that we're going to get to that completely relates to this, but I want to first start with shelling out this. So what I personally prefer to do for shelling out, okay, is instead of trying to doing everything in this one mesh, and i.e. this is the mesh that's got all the details on it, I'm just going to duplicate it, all right? And then I've got a version of the mesh that I don't really care about the details, in all honesty, because I'm going to use this to create the inner shell is now what I'm going to do, right? So I want to use that to create my shell. So I'm going to use Dynamesh to create the shell for sure, right? Because we have a create shell option here. It's just going to be the fastest and the easiest way to do this. Okay, so I'm going to just turn on polyframe so you guys can see the model. Okay, and I'm going to switch to any insert mesh brush. It doesn't matter what insert mesh brush you have, okay, unless you're going to try and do something specifically, okay? So I grab any surface. It's not really going to matter what the surface is, honestly. And then now I'm just going to hold the Alt key. I'm just going to draw on this. So you see what'll happen is that sphere is sitting inside where I drew, right? So I drew at the top here. So that sphere is sitting now inside. It's been turned white, which that's telling you visually ID that it's a subtractive piece. And that's also why it's inversed, because I'm using it as a subtractive piece, right? So we are changing the polygroup to white, and we're inverting the mesh, okay? Because I was holding the Alt key again when I drew that out, all right? And then now, what I want to do is actually move this away, okay? So you can clearly see that spherical shape now, right? Okay, so now I want to say, all right, let's go ahead and clear our mask, okay? And then now I'm just going to hit create shell here. Okay, and what ZBrush is going to do now is analyze the mesh and go, okay, well, you've got a dynamesh, so I'm going to create a shell for you based upon the dynamesh. And this is what I mean by the detail doesn't actually matter for this particular subtool, because it's the inner shell. I'm just creating an inner shell because, i.e., I need to save money for 3D printing material, or I need a shell because I want to do even something sculpturally, what you're going to see here in a second. There's many ways to go about it. Obviously, number one thing is 3D printing. I want to save money on the print, or in some cases, you know, if you break a toy apart, it's shelled inside also because manufacturing, right? We want to save money for that too, manufacturing wise. And then we've got to create molds and all that. All that stuff's important to us. Okay, so what's happened here is we've now created two versions of this cylinder. So there's an inner body cylinder, okay? And then there's the outer body. So that's what a shell is, right? So if we look at this, right, you can see there's now a shell there. Okay, and you can see we've got that here. Let me turn on display properties, double. Okay. Right, so the problem in the question that person had is when they were dynameshing, right, they were creating, when they're dynamesh, it was going across both things and creating a hole across the top here, right? So what I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to get rid of the green part, okay? I'm going to delete that. So I'm just using polygrouping. And I'm going to go to delete hidden in my tool geometry, okay? And then now I have this. And then this is the shell I get. And in all honesty, for the purpose of printing and supports and things like that, if I'm gonna polish this. Like, again, I just need it to be a shell. I don't need it to be, for the purpose of what I'm doing right now, perfect. And then the reason why now I've done this is the sculpted version. Let's say this is even 10 million, 20 million, right? I don't have to worry about, oh, what resolution do I need to be on to create the shell? Because my shell is actually on a completely different resolution. It's not going to matter. Okay, and then now I turn this to subtractive and throw on live boolean. Boom. Right? And now what this opens up for me actually is even better. I've got non-destructive type of a workflow for myself for now, like, hey, if I'm going to print, say I've got my form 2 over here, resin, there's times where I need to put little holes just so the print won't stick to the bed, right? So now I can say append, and you guys will now see what's going to happen here. Let's just append here. Let's append a cube, right? And then now let's say this, and let's cut through even now the cylinder. Something like this, right? Okay? And then now if I turn this on to subtractive, you can clearly see I just created a shelled surface. Right? There. Done. Right? And the big part here is, okay, is just like John's saying right now, I'm going to create a crazy bust that's crazy detailed. The inside doesn't need to be crazy detailed. I'm never going to see it. So I don't try to create the shell anymore or dynamesh on that one mesh anymore. I just duplicate it. I make that shell, and I'm using live booleans, right? And then now as an artist, even if I want to make 2 pieces of this, right? The best thing for me would be to do this, okay? I'm going to take a cube, because this was also in the question, how I want to make 2 pieces of this. So let's center this. Let's make a cube. Let's size this up. Right? And then here, let's just turn it so you guys see it like this. And I'm actually going to, yeah, let's make this be something more like that. Okay? And now I'm going to say, let's do a edge loop through here. I was going to think about using mirror and weld, but I'll just use my old handy dandy Z modeler. Okay, so now I've got a cube that looks like this. Okay? And what I want to do now is I want to duplicate this. So I want multiple halves, right? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold her up here. Let's just call this left side for now. Okay? And I'm going to say, okay, this is one folder. So this has got my cylinder piece. It's got the inner shell, and I've got a cube. I'm now going to duplicate the folder. Okay? So this is why I like the folder up, because I want to duplicate it. Right? So I want to make more than one of this. Okay? And then I'll rename this one. Let's rename this one right side. And this is also going to be a reason why I like folders here in a second, people. This is why I like me some folders. Okay, now the cube is actually going to be my cut line, right? So I would probably do a Q mesh and then just go boom, right? So let's turn this folder off, right? And then now this is subtracted. So there's the one side, right? Okay, so there's the one side. Okay, let's go ahead now and go and turn this back on. And now let's go to this cube. And then this cube needs the opposite direction, right? So I need this, right? And then subtractive. And now if I turn both folders on, it looks like the completed cylinder, right? But if I now go, okay, now give me the right and left side, I can now easily just go right here, right, to my settings, and I say Boolean folder or Boolean with dynamic subdivs if I'm using dynamic subdivs. So if I Boolean the folder, the great thing about this is I'm going to get both sides in the same tool, and I don't lose all my folder structure. If I find out, I look at this and maybe I do a quick test print and I go, oh, this isn't working for me, okay? I can go back and just make my adjustments that I need to make, okay? So there you go. I got my left and right side. So this is how I would hollow something out that has a hole in the middle. and make sure that I'm not just closing off the tops as well. This is an example for it, okay? So, and the high res, again, John, it doesn't matter about the high res. Okay, it really doesn't matter. Okay, so as an example, since you're bringing up, let me now put this in context. This is what I'm trying to say. This is something for me, like I'm trying to get my point across here. If you're high res, it doesn't matter. Okay, so what I want you to look at this is not trying to use the high res version to do, in essence, your cutting up, your shelling. Like, don't do it for that, is what I'm trying to push you to. Okay, so let me, hold on, I need to get, here, let's see, I think this one, let's load this model. Paulo, you control the thickness. Once my model loads, I'll show you. Control the thickness with your dynamesh setting. There's a thickness slider right next to create shell. Let's wait, this is a big file, so let me load this so that I can get this point across of what I'm trying to get across here for you all. Okay, so give me a second. Let this load. So go to your dynamesh settings, okay? And then right next to create shell, there's a thickness. Ian, bye. Great to have you. I'll look and see the image. Let me get to that image while we're waiting for this model to load. Let me see, in the chat you said you have an image. I don't see it. I'm missing it. Does anybody else see the image that Ian shared? Am I just missing it? I don't see it, Ian. Can you put it again, or someone can put it again? Okay, so you take an example of my gremlin, right? All this is being done, in essence, in this kind of way, right? So you can see all my folders with all the stuff that I'm using, right? To cut into this, right? So what I mean by that, this is clearly, this is even a decimated version, right? And I have all the details, but now I need to create a shell as an example, right? So that's important to me to want to create a shell for this, okay? And I accidentally told it to trim. Let's see, I want to make sure I don't have a shell in this already. So to my point, John, it doesn't matter that this is detailed. It doesn't matter. Okay, so there, I've got a detailed version, and in this case, it's even decimated. So it could be a dynamesh, it can be subdivided, it's not even relevant. Okay, so what I'm going to do, again, this is the sculpted version of him, right? So let's just clone this to only look at this, just this one right now. So of course, I don't want the sculpt, I need it to look like this when I print, but now I need inner shell to save some money, right, for this. So this is my point. I'm going to duplicate this, okay? And now this duplicated version, I'm going to dynamesh it. But I don't need to worry about dynameshing this at any resolution to maintain. Like, I can even start super low. I'm not trying to keep the details. Like, I don't need the crazy details of this. I'm just trying to create a shell. That's it. So I just need the general of look of this gremlin, right? Even that's enough right there. That's more than enough, okay, for me to create a shell with. I've got enough of the details here to create my shell. So now this is the one I want to create my shells off of, right? So back to inserting again, right? I'm going to grab an insert mesh brush. Doesn't matter what the shape is. Holding the Alt key, dragging out, and now I'm just going to move this away, right? And now we've got a create shell option here, right? So if I clear the mask, I want to create the shell, right? And then that's analyzing this to create that shell. Okay, so again, to just reiterating what I'm trying to say of how I like to create a shell, and then there's like a shell which has got some pretty colorful thickness. But now I can say delete hidden. I can re-polygroup this, right? Control W. And then I can even now hit this with a polish if I want to. And once again, I turn this on, and then this is my subtractive. And then now if I throw in append a cube, right? And then we'll turn this to a subtractive. And then you guys can see the shell. Okay? Obviously, that's a really big shell. right? Okay, there you go. So there's that question. And then printers that accept only 1 million, John, that's why you have the decimation master. Just decimate it down. Just keep decimating down, and then to the point where then that software can accept it. In fact, most of the software I'm using now can accept millions. Right? So, and the dog's talking to you guys about FDMs or FFS. Okay, next question. Bing. How to mask a straight line. Okay, so this question came in. They're trying to figure out a way. I would assume they're trying to make a mask line along even some kind of surface, right? So let's just go back to this model, because then we got something like this, and let's grab this, okay? And this is what I have for this. So this is a live boolean version of my model here. Okay, so let's just add some divisions here. In fact, we only need the one side for this right now, so I'm just going to delete the other side. So let me undo this. We don't need both sides right now. That way we can just look at one side and pay attention to the one wing here. And let me divide it up. So we got some more topology here. Okay, that's good enough. So if you guys, especially for something like this, you're trying to create masking lines, right? To maybe you want to do some more kind of like scribe lining here that I've even done. Okay. So I want to be able to, when I'm masking, let's select my mask pen, right? I want to be able to mask here, but I need it in a particular, even maybe angle, right? There's maybe some interest here that I want, right? So, and then maybe I go a little bit smaller. Okay, so number one, this has got pressure sensitivity, right? So if you notice, when I start masking, it's a lighter mask, and then if I push harder, it's a darker mask. So if I was really going to probably do something like this, I'd probably go adjust my sensitivity. Okay, so you got tablet pressure right here. Okay, so you can see there's 5 graphs here. And so this masking, my finger's still on control. See, when I let go of control, now I'm on the IMM primitive. So it's important to hold my finger down for control. So right now I'm allowing this masking brush to have a variation in size, intensity, and also RGB intensity when I'm going to use it. Okay, so number one, I don't want any change in the size. So I'm going to do this with my graph. So when I go and mask, no matter how hard I press, the size is going to be the same. But now we have the thing where my intensity is different, right? So that's what these sliders are controlling. I want to be able to control my intensity, right? And then this would be, say, my Z intensity now also, right? So that way, when I'm using this, this is now all I get. See? No matter how hard I press, I'm very light right now, barely touching my Cintiq, I'm pushing down on my Cintiq. There's now no difference, right, in that mask. Okay? Size, and it's at 100%. So obviously this person was like, well, I need to make a straight line now. Okay? So of course you can hold the, try and do this with the shift key. But really the best way to do this, okay? And this is going to be the best way to do this. I would go into the stroke palette and I would turn on lazy mouse is what I would do. Okay, and my lazy radius, I don't need it to be very high. I'm going to put it around 10, right? So now all we're doing is just now going to get even a better mask, okay, because of the lazy radius, right? And a lazy mouse giving me something like that. Now I want to get a little something, instead of like this, I want to be able to really say I want a certain angle here, right? So if we look down at this part, let's go even a little bit smaller. I want to do this, and then now I want to go straight here, straight across, and then do this, right? You can see there's a little waviness in here. And then obviously this is based upon the quality of my mesh. So here we'll go up to 17 million. So the masking will get even a little bit better. Okay? So what I want to do now is this. I want a line that goes there to there, then maybe even follows this, and then up. Now, oh yeah, 45-degree angle, definitely a 45. Yeah, definitely. And then now I'm going to follow that. See that? That's giving me the ability now to kind of sit here and with this and go, I'm going to put a new little design in this and go, now I want to start from there and it's going to do that. Then maybe I want to even do that, come out like that. That works. And now I want to come back here and say this line is going to go in like that. And then this line, right? Okay. This line, I want to go from there. And I'm looking at the red, not, well, we get the green. We can go with the green if you want. Right? So I want to just give it a mask like that, right? And then the benefit of this kind of stuff is we can inverse the mask, right? Now we got something like this going on, okay? And then now I could go down here to deformation. Here, I'm going to hide the mask right now so the mask is still there, right? And then now I can say, let's deflate it a little bit. And see, I can put a little kind of like design in this. And for me, I would probably say, I like to do like in steps. So I'm going to say in -1. And see, maybe that's just what I want. I just want a little variation. So I got my thick, my deep, in essence, my deep scribe linings. And now this is just a sculptural thing. And because I want -1, I can come down here and say repeat to active, which is this one. And then it'll do a -1 again, -1 again. So this is the benefit to this, right? Is me allowing that. So that's how I would draw with a straight line. Okay, and so how you make this happen is, again, I'm holding the control key because I'm on the masking pen. And then I'm clicking, and now when you do this, you're just masking. Right? And I'm not even holding the keyboard, right? Look up here. Okay? And you can do this, right? So now I'm going to do this, but then now switch to the shift key. So my finger's still on the keyboard. So now I'm holding the shift key, and then I'm doing now, and I just keep moving my hand and letting go of the shift key, holding the shift key, letting go of the shift key, holding the shift key, letting go of the shift key, holding the shift key, letting go of the shift key, to get stuff like that. Okay? And then again, the pressure is going to be important. Okay? So there's also your tablet right here, right? This is where your pressure sensitivity is as well. And obviously you could just use a mouse instead. If you just use a mouse, then it's always 100%, right? But if you use tablet, right, this will also could do the same thing. Okay, but this is also this tablet settings. See this use global button here on the brushes? When this is on for any brushes, it's now looking at these settings for the sensitivity. Okay, and when in the brush palette, when this is off, then it's looking at the graph. It's now ignoring these settings. Right? So this gave the ability for us to really hone in our brushes to have anything like that. Okay? So there you go. There's that question. That's how do you make a straight line for masking purposes. So that's the way I would do that. Okay? Just looking at just reading what Wavy Gravy. I'm trying to keep up with you right now. Are you like? Hold on. I'm seeing if you're asking me a particular. Oh, okay. So you're talking to somebody about Unity stuff. It looks like. Okay. All right. So let's look at our next question coming through on the wire. Okay. Here's our next one, and this is actually going to lead me to another feature too. So how do I polygroup multiple meshes at once? Many of you probably know this, right? But obviously this is coming through. It's still important to understand this, okay? So let's take a look at this. Let's go ahead and let's go back to, let's grab this guy, okay? And let's delete this. And then let's say this particular person also brought up they were making scales, and they were using like insert mesh brushes actually, right? So let's grab something here let's be different here. Let's grab something from here that has some scales. Here we go, IMM scales. All right, so as a user, when you guys are drawing something out like this, let's get to it, as a user. Okay, so I'm drawing out, right, this. So I can draw and create scales along its back, right? This now is going along a curve, right? And then you've got scales, which this particular brush had already polygroups. So the top half's got its own polygroup, and the bottom half's got its own polygroup, right? So what this person was wanting to do is say something like this, and they were like, well, I need to be able to assign different polygroups to each one of those scales, okay? And I'm going to assume this person wanted this because they also wanted to do some selection, masking, and things like that, right? So the answer to that, this one is really easy. It's a one-click button option, right? And again, a lot of you probably know this, but this is going to lead me into other features, okay? Because I don't know if this person's going to watch this or is watching this right now. So auto groups is just going to do that, right? Auto groups allows me to click one button. We go evaluate. Oh, of course, I left my water in my house. Evaluate all the surfaces, and every mesh that's individual, right, gets its own polygroup. Okay. So, however, you don't necessarily have to do this. Like, even in this scenario, especially for what that particular person was maybe going down the pipeline with, is if I, like, say I want to start editing these scales, and maybe I even want to edit individuals, like, I can move individual scales without doing any masking. Right? So you can see I can just and play with just even individual scales, start adding a little bit of asymmetricalness to this, and there's no mask at all. There's a mask, but it's an auto mask. And the thing I want to highlight about this is it's not just for this brush. And I know I've shown this brush multiple times, but this is, and then I can even go to a draw size of 1, and I can actually move the piece individually based on camera angle where I want it even to sit as well. I don't even have to switch to gizmo. And see, I'm just moving the scales individually. Okay? And what I'm using right now is the Move Topological brush. Right? So I'm in Move, and then I got over here the Move Topological brush. So if you look screen left, there you go. Right? So this is now using topology, right, to do this for me. Even though it's got nothing to do with polygroup. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, people, is this is not just only this brush again. Like, I can switch to, like, say, even something like clay buildup. So obviously, when I start sculpting on these, right, I want different things happening across the scales, maybe, right? Maybe even I'm going to start dividing this up a little bit, right? So let's divide it up, and then now I'm going to start working on, like, a certain scales here. Okay? What I can do is even limit this brush. So even though without masking, all I'm doing here is in auto masking, okay, I'm just turning on topological. That's all that's on in that Move Topological brush. It's the move brush. It's just that option's now turned on, and then the range has been set different. If I remember, it's sitting at 3, maybe 1, 3. See, sitting at a range of 3. So in essence, 3 times the brush size. So wherever I click, wherever that vertex is that I click, you're allowed to go 3 more times brush size out, and that's the only part of the topology you're allowed to move. So I'm just now turning that on for clay buildup. So when I go to sculpt, right, I can only sculpt on the mesh that I click on. See? I can't, it's not going to affect any other scales. Okay, so this is one thing. Okay, so now let me work backwards. And that person also was obviously asking that question about individual polygroups. But this also leads me to something else. Okay, when I first drew this out, right, I have different scales here, and they're all different polygroups. So what's also very nice that we can do now in ZBrush is I can show a section of these, right, like this, right? So I'm just showing a portion of the blue scales and the green scales. Now what's really nice for us to be able to do now is this. I'm going to just zoom out, and I'm going to tell ZBrush, give me all of them. Right? This is a big one for me. So this was just added in the last patch. So we're in 2021.6.4 right now. Okay? So this is now selecting based upon polygroups is what's happening here now. So I'm only showing a little portion of these scales. Okay, and it could be, okay, it could be even one polygon really from each polygroup. It doesn't matter the number of polygons. As long as there's at least one still available, like this, right? And then boom, I just, right, got all of them. Right? This is huge. Huge. This is different than that. So you see I only got one scale. I only got each one scale. I'm saying, no. I want this green polygroup and that blue polygroup. Give me all the meshes that are sharing that same polygroup. This is new. Okay? This is in the visibility. There's now a new grow to polygroup. And I'm using the shortcut Control-Shift-Q. Okay, so my point here is this person most likely was asking the question is because they wanted to do stuff like this. They wanted to go sculpt on individual scales. They wanted to mask out individual scales. You don't technically have to, right? Because of the topology option that I was showing you as well. But if you do, there obviously is that auto group is a great way to do it. Okay? And then that person was also asking using masking, right, to do things as well. And I was just showing the masking to do that. Okay, but the auto groups is going to allow me to do this. And it's based upon visibility, right? So you would hide a portion. And so this is why I'm also showing these selection abilities. Because maybe I only want, maybe you want something like this, and now you only want like these sections. Right, so I'm going to grow out all of this, and now I want only that auto-grouped. And then now these scales are all still the same polygroup, right? And then now those are all individual polygroups, and then now the body, right? So it's wherever I want to do, right? Okay, so there you go. That's a great way to do that. Okay, any questions about that one so far? Let's see where we're at. We got some. I got some more here. Hold on, Johnny boy. I've always wanted to array a piece of geometry along like a polygroup strip. Replace the faces of a polyloop with an insert polyface design. Maybe. I feel like there's a couple things you're asking me here, honestly. So you're trying to, hold on, let me reread the question from my head to gather all this information again. I've always wanted to array a piece of geometry along like a polygroup strip. Okay, that's easy. Replace the faces of a polyloop, okay, with an insert polyface design. Yes, nano mesh is going to do what you're saying, Johnny, right? So yeah, you're going to be able to do that with nano mesh. Like if we took something like this ring and make poly mesh, and now along this ring, I want like spherical shapes or even like diamonds. Let's say it is an actual ring. I want diamonds or something like that, right? I can grab any insert mesh brush, okay, and turn that into a nano, okay, and then now I can say in this is now an actual new Z modeler brush. So I spacebar and I'm insert nano, and then I just say polyloop, right? And then now that orange line says where for this to polyloop, right? And then I can say, oh, I want a spherical shape instead, right? And then now I have that. Okay, so obviously that's nano that you're bringing up to do something like that. Now I've got this nano repeating spherical shapes. And then I have the ability to even change the offset if I want to, right? So this is the beauty of nano, is there's ability to edit after the fact, right? And then we can even have a little more fun and even tile it, you know, maybe 2x2 kind of a thing. And then I can scale it, still change the scale of them, right? All this can be done because I'm in nano. Now, another thing to think about for this, obviously, is don't forget about some stuff that we have discussed before. What I'm going to do now, I'm just going to create another polygroup here. It doesn't even have to be polygroups. It could be also a creased edge, right? Then let's grab something else. Let's grab and insert IMM curve. Okay, and I think maybe this is what you're asking. I got like stitches now. So I'm drawing a stitch, right? Now I want the stitches to be in a certain location. So what I'm going to do is just show these two polygroups, and only these two polygroups, and nothing else. Okay? And then now I'm going to go to a stroke, curve modifiers, right? And then we're going to go only polygroups, and then click frame mesh. And what that's doing, it's dropping a curve where the two polygroups meet, and then now I just tap, and then you get the stitches, and then now it's just how big of stitches do I want there. So you had brought this up, so I'm not sure if this is also what you were looking for, right? So this is just another way, and I can do that by polygrouping, I can do that by creasing, or visibility. Okay? Cool. Sound good? Okay, hopefully. If you got an image or something, Johnny, that would be best, so I can see what it is you're trying to do. Pull up an image and throw it in the chat for me, okay? So that we can take a look at it. While you're doing that, I'm going to move on to the next question that I have. Here's my next question, okay? What the heck is, how does remesh by use? Okay, this is for me what I was already talking to you guys about. I don't use dynamesh to weld everything together anymore. I don't. I don't want to sit there and be playing with the details. So let's grab a different version of let's grab an older version of Mr. Gremlin here, I guess, since he's still up. Let's go with this one. Okay, so again, dynamesh can do that. Dynamesh, you can weld things together, right? But this question's perfect for me for something like this, right? I've got a sculpt of my gremlin, right? So there's the head is its own piece, okay? And then you can see all the other parts in this particular folder are their own piece. Now what we normally would do is say, okay, I need the head and the ears and the eyes and the teeth and the mouth and the gums. Everything's got to be welded together. Okay? So looking at this, number one, I'm in a folder. So let's say I've got, see, the mouth. Okay, I'm sorry, the mouth. The head, ear, right? Then there's the shoulder pieces. I got legs here. Okay? And then I got more shoulder pieces, arms, torso, right? There's different parts. And then the teeth and the mouth. See, they're in different spots as well. Okay? So here's what I like to do, all right? Let's go ahead and let's just rip actually this out of this folder, and let's just put it down in this bottom folder here. Okay, so let's put our teeth down there. Let's do the same thing with the eyes. Let's put our eyes down there. Okay, and yeah, let's do the gum. Okay, let's take the gums. Let's put the gum down here too. Let's see, I got the eyes right. Yep, let's get the spikes. Okay, here's my head spikes. And do this, okay? So now we've got spikes, we've got eyes, we've got teeth, and we got gums and things like this. So normally, especially if I'm someone that's going to need to 3D print this, or I need something now, I need to, maybe I even need to remesh it. I need it all be together, right? Welded together, right? So what I'm going to do now is the old way that we would do this. And if you look, this particular one we have subdivision levels on this. Okay, so I'm just going to delete them so you guys can see the density we're playing with, right? So every one of these has some subdivisions. So this is about 6 million, right? So we'll go down a little bit just for sake of time. And then the same thing for the ear. We'll just go down a little bit in that, just so I don't have to sit here. You guys don't have to sit here for what I'm about to do. So I'm just going to go through these. And I don't actually need to delete. I'm just going through and showing you that they have subdivision levels and there's different polygon counts. This is the main thing that I'm trying to get across, is that it's got different polygon counts. To get the details, I needed the head to be sitting at like tens of millions to get the details that I wanted. Each ear needed to be sitting at 6 million, right? So when we're talking about things like dynamesh, now we're going to talk about things like, let's go ahead and turn off everything else but this head part that we're looking at right now. Okay, and we don't want that on. Let's turn that folder off. Oops. Not that one. This one. Okay. So now I'm looking at just only my head sculpt, right? And I need this all to weld together, especially if you're someone like John, if you're still in here, right? So I'm just going to merge now by visibility. Okay? Because in essence, now you've merged it, so that's one thing solved. But now I'm sitting at 10.4 million. I don't care what you try to do now, you will never get the dynamesh to get to 10.4 million. And so that's the problem, is now as a user, I'm sitting here, I'm going, oh, I need to dynamesh this because I need this all weld together. Dynamesh is going to do it. The problem you're going to have is I'm not going to be able to get my resolution high enough to weld everything and maintain all the detailing, right? I can crank this all the way up and I still will not be able to perfectly maintain the detail. Like, we're getting better, right? But looking at it closely, you know, there's a big difference still here, right? So I just have to keep going up and 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 up in my resolution. I'd probably even say at a max resolution, it's going to do a pretty good job. Let's see what it does. Let's try it. Let's go all the way. Let's go all the way to the top, and let's max resolution this out. Well, let's see what we even get. There. Okay, it's not bad. This is 3.5 million. However, guys, this is 3.5 million. It's not the 10 million I was sitting at. So there is going to be loss of detail in places. Because you can't just say take something 10 million and then maintain it. Like, it did a pretty good job at 3.5 million. Did a really good job, right? Because part of that 10 million was internal geometry that we didn't need anymore, right? So you can see if you start getting close, you can see where you're starting to lose some detailing, right? And if you're taking something, especially like I printed mine really big, that loss in detail is going to show up in the print now. If I'm printing really tiny, it's not going to matter. But if I'm printing really big, I don't want to lose it. I don't want that. I want that, right? I want to maintain as much of the detail as I can, right? And this is why I don't use the dynamesh anymore to do this. I now use live booleans, which goes right into this question. What the heck is remesh by union? Okay, what does this do for you guys? This is exactly what it does for you guys, okay? We are now sitting at 10.4 million. Okay, so this might take a minute. I'm going to open up my gizmo here. So I'm just hitting the W key, or W, and I'm going to hit gear, and now I'm just going to hit remesh by union. And I'm going to sit back, and what's going to happen here is ZBrush's live boolean code is ran, and then now everything is welding together is what I want to have happening here, right? So that's what this is for. This remesh by union is for. It's for looking at the model, right? Evaluating and then saying, hey, I just want everything to weld together. And then so it's just using live booleans to do this in essence. That's all it's doing, right? So I know if I turn on live booleans. Okay, and so obviously live booleans needs to be on for this to work, right? And then so that's the point of that remesh by union, okay, is to run that, and so that all this can weld. It's about making one subtool weld everything together. That's what it's about, right? Taking all this. So if we take this here, let's take it in a simpler context. Let's just take a cube as an example, right? We'll take a cube, we'll make this, so you guys can just understand a little bit of what's happening here, right? So now I have something like this. There's still one subtool, right? So if I want to now remesh by union, they're union now. The internal geometry is now gone. And I didn't have to worry about dynamesh and resolution, okay, or anything like that. That's why this is why I don't use the dynamesh anymore to weld things together, doing all my keying, my articulation. I don't have to worry about using live booleans. The number one thing I don't have to worry about is, do I lose any quality? Okay. Okay, so wavy gravy, the ZBrush doesn't accept step files. So you got to convert that to polygons anyways, and then that polygon geometry is a mess. It's even worse than this geometry. So yes, it'll all work. Yeah, you can bring it all in and that would work. Yes, absolutely. As long as you can't do booleans unless things are, closed surfaces. So if you're going from something, a CAD program for you, make sure when you're exporting, make sure all the vertex points are either welded, okay, from whatever you're using, SolidWorks, Rhino, whatever you're going to use. Just tell it when it exports to make sure everything is, all the patches are welded. Then you're good to go. If they're not all welded, at least make sure all of the vertex points line on all the patches, and then in ZBrush you can tell it to weld the points. Okay, so in the geometry modified topology, there's a weld points with a tolerance slider. And then yeah, as long as it's shelled together, then yeah, you could just use live booleans. You could then weld everything together in that sense. Okay? Does that answer your question, Wavy Gravy? I just wanted to say Wavy Gravy name. You got a great name. I love it. Okay, so Will, this is the same subtool. That's yes. So this algorithm is only running on the subtool. That's it. So if you're merging a whole bunch of stuff together and you want to get rid of the inner shells and then inner geometry and then have it weld, that's when you run this. Right? I already showed though the folder ability, right? Too. I could have over here technically I could have just done this. I could have just said, okay, this is the only thing that I'm looking at in the folder, and I could have technically just ran live boolean here, right? And then just said boolean folder, and it's going to run the live booleans on this. It's the same thing, except now I didn't need to merge everything. I'm letting live boolean do the merging for me, right? So that's the thing. We're doing merging for us all, and we're deleting all the internal geometry. So kind of the same thing that dynamesh is doing, but then I don't lose any at all sculptural detail. Not one. So I don't have to worry about a resolution slider. Okay? Well, make-believe TV, in order to do a Boolean option, you got to use triangles. So in order to clean the topology, you're going to have to remesh it. There's no way around that. You're going to have to remesh that section or remesh the whole thing, right? And that's why we have a Z-remesher, so you can do a one-click solution, right? So if you look at this, the head ended up being, here's the head. What did this one end up being? See, so it was 8.6 million when it was done. So we went from, I was at like 2.4 million, right? All the subtools. So to about almost 2 million of the vertex points were sitting inside the gremlin's head, right? And then now they're not. And see, and then everything is now welded, see? So this is all welded together. And then now, what's beautiful about this, everybody, is even after this, right? Especially for someone like me, maybe I'm going to print this out and I go, you know what? I want to go bump the details a little bit more in this area, right? You can now say, all right, let's go ahead and let's select this portion now. And I don't need the back, okay? And I'm going to switch to my Damien standard, right? And I'm going to say, okay, now I can sculpt, right? So clearly I can still sculpt. So this is the benefit of also our live Boolean, is we're maintaining the topology. However, now, I don't even really care about the topology because it's going to be 3D printed or whatever it's going to be. I'm going to turn on Sculptris Pro, and now I can get even a better stroke because now I can visually just work on this and just get maybe even a little bit more of a quality of a stroke, even smooth it down, and I have full control here now just to paste upon. This is a game changer for me. This came out for 2021.5 is when we did this, which was only December. Like, this is not that old, right? So we've released 4 versions, I think, in the last 6 months. In all honesty, it's been a fun ride. I'm sure for all of you as well, right? So this is also a workflow for me. I don't even have to worry about cleaning up topology also too if I'm just trying to get more details, right? And then any brush is going to give me the ability, right, to do that, right? And then right now I don't need live booleans anymore. I got the auto mask on. So let me turn off the auto mask on this. And so I can also sculpt, right, with this as well. Okay? So we can grab any brush, like a lot of people like the clay. right, to build up some surface. And then, of course, the benefit here is we're dynamically tessellating as we go. Okay, and right now it doesn't have subdivisions because when you use the live booleans, we can't keep the subdivision levels. So no, it doesn't have subdivision levels. Okay, it did. The original one did, right? Before I did all the welding together. Like, this is something I'm going to do last, obviously. I'm not doing all the welding until I'm ready and I'm done, right? But yeah, this one had subdivision levels. So you can see there's your subdivision levels. So, and I actually made this from scratch in previous streams, and I showed the whole process of how I made this. So you can see how low I am, which is just a ZBrush version, and then I just kept going up to get more details. Okay? So there you go. So that's what the remesh by union is going to do for us. Okay, nice, Doug. Only if you get it wet. All right, so let's move on to my next question. Okay, this is a great one, segue. How do I merge subtools and maintain my subdivisions? Okay, so in this last thing, we were merging, okay, and it was I wasn't worried about subdivision levels. Now I am worried about subdivision levels, okay? Now I want to be able to merge this head, say, with the ears, okay? So let's move the ears up, and let's put the subdivision levels back on this. Okay, and this ear, let's also put the subdivision levels back on this ear. Okay, so now we've got an ear that has subdivision levels. And you see I have an internal, this is all for 3D printing. Okay, and then now I got this ear. So this one's sitting at 5, they're both sitting at around 5.9, 5.9, and 5 million. And then this one's sitting at 5.6. Now, what becomes important to us is this. How many subdivision levels do each one of these meshes have? Okay, that becomes important. Number two, when I'm going to go merge down, what's that polygon count going to total? Okay, and depending on your system, the most you can go is 100 million polygons per mesh. Okay, so in your preferences, you go to mem, and you can see right here my max poly per mesh is set all the way out to 100, which is 1 million. Okay, so this particular system I'm on, I can get to 100 million polygons on one mesh. So those are the first two things I got to look at. Everything I'm going to merge, is it going to be more than 100 million? Okay, if it is, then you're not going to be able to merge all of it together in that sense. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is look at, okay, the head's got 7, and then the ears got 6, 6. Okay, and now this head's sitting at number 6. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to delete the higher so that they all have 6. This is really important. They all got to have the exact same number. If they don't have the same number and you merge, that's when you start losing either your subdivision levels completely or you'll lose some of them. Okay? So now, when I go to start merging this down, okay, I've got the head, right? And then we're just going to look at the head with the ears here now in this sense. Okay, now I want to start merging down. So now I just merge down. I say okay. And then I want ZBrush to merge, obviously, the head with the ear, right? And then it's looking at everything. It's evaluating, okay, you got a head that's sitting at 5.6 million. It's got 6 subdivision levels. You want me to merge now with the subtool below it that also has an ear that has X amount of subdivision, like whatever one we're at now, the 5.9. And then that's got 6 subdivision levels, right? So you can see this is the merging's taking some time because it's evaluating both of those subtools and looking at those two subtools and seeing what is the subdivision level counts at and how many polygons is in each one of those, right? And so when it merges down, I want them to be together, right? But not lose my subdivision levels. And there you go. So let me move this up. And you can see now I've got one ear in the head. They're now one subtool. So now that subtool is sitting at 11.5 million now, but I did not lose my subdivision levels. So I can walk down and up. So this is how you would do that. Okay, now the thing to keep in mind, if you're going to merge, okay, it's always going to take and look at what you're merging with. So if I wanted to merge, say, with the eyes, you see there's no subdivision levels on the eyes. So what's going to happen is if I go to merge the eyes with now that head and the ear, I'll end up with no subdivision levels. I'll keep the quality, but I'll have no subdivision levels, right? Because they don't match. Because the eye's got 0. So ZBrush is going to go, okay, well, the head's got 6, but the eye's got 0. Well, I got to merge, but this one's got 0. So it's going to just go, I'm going to go with what the lower number is in subdivisions. So if the eye had 3 subdivision levels and I merged down, that head and that ear then would merge with the eyes, and now I'd go from 6 subdivision levels only to 3. Okay, so obviously you would want, if I want to merge the eyes with the rest, you would want to get this up to 6 subdivision levels would be the goal. Right? And then this for eyes, that's just crazy. Like, it's just spheres. Right? So I would probably replace these eyes. Like me, I would probably go back down to this where it's just, let's get rid of the subdivision levels completely. Like these eyes are at 50,000 polygons for like eyes. Like I don't need this. Right? So this is something where I would go, okay, I know I need to get to 6 subdivision levels, but I just need the eyes to be smooth for me. Okay, so I'm going to remesh this, and I'm going to remesh this down into the hundreds. Right? So, and then I'm going to say, okay, they can be symmetrical, and then just remesh this. So really what I want is my first subdivision level not to be at 50,000 polygons. I want my first subdivision level to be a lot less. Right there. And then now when I divide up, and I can divide up, I'm not going to get into those crazy numbers in the eyes. So there, I'm not even at 1,000,000, and it's the same eyes. There's no difference. Right? So that makes more sense. Because then when I go merge now these eyes, right, with what I've already merged up here, I'm adding another 1,000,000 to the 11.5 million. And then I'm not losing my subdivision levels. Just keep that in mind. Remember, i.e., if I set this at 4, right, and then now I go to merge this down, okay, it's going to drop the subdivision levels to 4 now. Okay? Cool. Did everyone understand that? Anybody lost there? Hold on, let me go. What about that little section under the right eye? After the remesh by union, it still has its polygroup. Are you able to get back that missing spot by using, let's say, the move brush? I'm not. Well, obviously, you're talking about after I welded everything together. Hold on, let me grab the welded version. This is why I like folders, people. This is why I like folders. Okay, you're asking something about the eye and polygrouping. Okay, number one, it's awesome that it maintains the polygroups. I would want that, right? 7S, are you still here? Okay, I would still want this polygrouping. And this is on purpose. I did that. If you're talking about this, how the eyes got this, that's on purpose. I did that sculpture. I kind of wanted to put a scar across his eye. That's me. I did that in the sculpt, in the original sculpt. I didn't want it to be a perfect eyelid going across. Is this the part you're referring to? 7S? Is this part right here? Is that what you're referring to? So obviously you can use the move. You can use any brush you want on this. Okay? But now you're working with 8.7 million with no subdivision levels. And it's got to have some, obviously, triangulation where all of the meshes met with each other. Okay? You're not supposed to feed them under. I love me some Gremlin, man. It's one of my all-time favorites. Does that make sense, 7S? That was on purpose, if that's what you're referring to. You can see on the other eye, I don't have it on the other eye. It's fine. Right? And I want polygrouping because I wanted to be able to do certain things with this. So let me go back to my normal transpose because we started this stream on the different. Because I want to maybe do stuff like... looking at this, right? I might want to start looking at, well, do you want to mask out a certain section, right? So you can start doing stuff like this, right? In essence. And now I can work on just the eye, or I can flip it, and now the eye doesn't get touched. And now maybe I want to make that eyelid bounce a little bit more, come off the surface a little more. In this case, it's welded now, 7S. So if I move this, it's moving the scar. Okay? You got to remember that. But I could also say, here, let's reset all my brushes because I've been messing around with these. Okay, so I can say, also, if I want to mess with that eye part, okay, I can also do this. I don't even have to mask, right? And I'm actually only sculpting on the eye part, or vice versa. So I'm only sculpting on the eyelid part, and then it's not being touched on the eye because I've got different polygroups. And then now I'm telling the brush, all the brushes, this is a global setting, to only pay attention to one polygroup. And whatever that one polygroup is, the one I clicked on, that's the only one you can sculpt on. Right? And then, no, these are welded now. So this is one piece. There is no more inner geopology, right? There is no more, what am I doing? There is no more inner topology, right? So you can't move the eye or move the eyelid back. But this is another reason why I'm using folders. If you don't like the result, you just go back and grab the original mesh and fix it. Cool? Does that make sense? I'm not sure if I'm answering your questions. I'm not sure. I'm assuming you're trying to ask, can I still go adjust the eye or adjust the skin? No, because it's all welded. You can, but then the things I'm showing you. If not, then you go back to the original mesh. Okay, so there you go. There's that. Okay, so wavy gravy now. We'll move on to your quick question. So just adding, you just want to add an image to the surface noise? Yeah, that's really easy to do. You can only add one image at a time though. So you got 3 types of noises in surface noise. You have either this graph, okay, which is this noise, or you have your noise plugin. But if you want an image, you just click on this down here in the bottom left, alpha on and off, right? Just click on that, and then it's going to launch. And then here, like say here's an image that, see, now I've got an image in there, right? And then now that is being controlled by this slider. So I'm going to get rid of it, and let's zoom into a part where you could see this. Let's go right into there. And so now this is just repeating here. Let's bump the scaling so you can really see it. See? And then now this is just going across the whole gremlin. See? Easy way to put a pattern, of course, on him. So it's just repeating the image. That's it. That's all that's happening here. So that's where you just click on the alpha on and off. The noise plugin itself is like, yeah, a procedural item that's being evaluated by 3D and then allows you to adjust. Okay. By default, everything's 3D being applied by 3D. If you're going to use the UV option, then it'll go look at your UVs and apply the noise based upon a flat surface instead of just a 3D surface. Okay. You don't need UV mapping. It's an applying. It's not necessarily a projection, because if you look, you'll see some stretching. I don't want to call it a projection per se. It is, and it's either stretching, because it's just whatever way the model's sitting to here, that's being applied. But then there's normals in the back, doing this. So then that's why it stretches, right? Because it's just doing this to the alpha. It's just, yeah. And I guess camera plane projection, I guess, if you want to go that way. Okay. And there you have it. Oh, you want to make it stripe real quick? If I was making this stripe, I'd probably just do this, right? And then say, let's go a little bit further back there, and then now let's fiber mesh it. Like if I was gonna turn them into stripe, yes, right? And I'm going to make the gravity go negative, so it goes up. Let's add some more length in this, right? Let's change the color so it's not black. right? And right now you can see everything that's being made. Let's make the coverage bigger. Yeah. So you see kind of them are all over the place. The reason why this is also happening is double is on. Okay, so there's fibers being made inside as well. So you want to turn double off for this, okay? Because I don't want that happening with the fiber meshes. I don't want double to be used. I only want the fibers to be grown a certain way, right? And then now I want gravity to take over this. And then I also want some more segments, right? And then now I probably want the gravity going positive in this sense. Right, so you start to get something like that. Yes! Okay. All right, moving on to the next question. Let's keep rocking and rolling here. Let's see, where did I leave off? Okay, merge subtools we did. All right, here's a good one. I thought this was a really good one. This is a great question to ask because there's actually more than one way to do this. Okay, so how can I copy a rotation from one subtool to another? Okay, so I'm assuming this user was trying to rotate meshes, right? And they had multiple, obviously multiple subtools, so they were turning something, right? Let's just say something like this guy, right? So if we're rotating this, right, we want maybe other things to rotate with it. And there's going to be more than one way maybe even to do this, right? And in some cases, maybe you even made your model the wrong direction. Maybe you modeled like this, right? Which it should be forward facing Z, should be the way it goes, right? And what I want to do is refix this. I need it to be facing forward Z because right now I'm facing X with the body and I want Z. Okay? So let's just say, as an example, since this guy is facing the right way right now, what's going on, Mike Mayart? Okay? Let's say it's facing the wrong way. I need this guy to be facing positive X. Okay? Just rotate the monitor. Oh, characters today. I like it, Mike. All right, so this is what they're asking. I want to rotate this to now facing the right direction, but every subtool needs to rotate. Okay? So let me show you one way first. All right? So one way would be using the deformation submenu. Okay? So I got this menu, right, to be able to rotate this. Right? So I'm going to say, all right, rotate right here is in here. And I'll rotate along what? I'm going to rotate along the Y. So I'm going to turn off the Z and hit Y because I want him to turn like this, as if it was like a turntable where there's a pole going through from his feet to his head, and I want to rotate around there, right? So now I can say, and I'm showing this because there's something cool. I'm going to say this, and I'm saying 90 degrees. Okay, and see he rotated one direction. If I do a negative 90 degrees, let me try and see if I can stop that save. Should go turn off my saving. Okay, now we're gonna have to wait for my save. I don't want to mess with it while it's saving now. So in essence, I'm trying to rotate the model, which is one subtool, and then I want all the other subtools to rotate with it, right? That's what I'm looking for. I might kill ZBrush because I have a lot of stuff loaded that's big, and let's see if I can make it escape. Well, I don't want to. You guys don't need to see it. Wow, saving. Look, amazing. I'm just gonna close this. I'm not gonna sit here and wait for a save. Pointless. Okay, and get it launched. Okay, it's launching. Okay, so again, to this question, all right? Let's go here. And again, let's just load him again. All right, and then let me actually turn off. Let's turn off these quick saves. And I'm going to turn off my screensaver. Now, back to this again. I can now say over here, once again, I'm going to rotate by the Y. And then I'm going to say -90. And see, he turned. Now I need all the other ones. And this is why I'm going to show this to you guys. All I need to do now is this. Go to the bottom of the menu. And repeat to other. Bam. I'm showing this to you guys is because there's a lot of things inside of deformation, like contrast, smooth, inflate balloon. That's just not about rotations, right? I might want to do like if I want to do now an inflation to him, and now I want every other subtool also to inflate with that exact same inflation, I can now hit repeat the other, and then they all inflated with that exact same inflating. Okay? I don't know what you're referring to, Alex. I don't know what performance issue you're referring to. I just didn't want to wait for a saving. It's not a performance issue. It's got to go create. And I have a ton of tools loaded that were really big. So it's probably going to be a gig or two. And I didn't want to wait for that file to be created. But if you're, for ZBrush Sense, CPU, and then the number of threads, and then the speed of that is really important. Your RAM, the amount of RAM and the speed of your RAM is important. And then your hard drive. Like those things are the most important things for ZBrush. Okay, so this is why I wanted to show this. But realistically, I'm not going to always want to do this, right? And then now you've got, right, see the subtools, right, have some are moved and some are not, right? So let's reload this guy back now to just be back to the beginning. Okay, and really, if I'm going to do what that person was asking in the question, I'm going to use the gizmo. Number one, I can go anyway. I don't need to do any sliders, right? I don't need any settings. I don't need typing. I can just be looking at the model, look from the top, and then just rotate. What if I want an exact, like, 45-degree angle? Okay? So you can see all the other subtools need to move with it. Because now I've got subtools here. I've got 11 of them. All you need to do is throw a party, man. Okay? You just got to have a bunch of us over, and you got to throw a party with a bunch of pizzas, i.e. a bunch of subtools. So that's what this icon right here is. That's what this icon right here in my gizmo is. This is going to allow me to tell ZBrush, hey, I don't want to just move, scale, or rotate the selected subtool. I want to move, scale, rotate any of the other subtools that are visible and I haven't selected out. So now I can see move 45-degree angles, and then they're all on a 45-degree angle, right? Or I can see undo as a group, and then a 90-degree angle. That's very different than what I was just doing before. When I did the undos before, I was only undoing the rotation deformation at a subtool. Okay? This, because it's an action of the gizmo, I can undo the whole item as a unit. And then you got to remember, obviously, with this on, okay, I can select out parts that I don't want to move or rotate, right? So I have this ability here to do that. So again, I'm just holding down Control Shift and I'm tapping on the subtools that I want fully rendered so I can see, okay, all that, and then move everything around. And whatever I don't want, Control Shift tap. And then now I don't want those. And then you guys can also just draw out whatever's in the green box is now going to be visible for moving, rotating, and everything else. Everything that wasn't in the box stays put. That's it. That's how I would do it. Me, I would use the gizmo. Now, the video stopped for Facebook people. I see it still going on YouTube. What about everybody else? Rio said it just I don't know if it's on Rio's side. Or what about the rest of you watching on Facebook? Is it still rocking and rolling for you? If not, everyone else is still fine too. I see it moving on YouTube for me, so. Okay, so if it's a Facebook issue, I would recommend Rio for you to jump to our YouTube channel or our Twitch channel, because they're not having any problems there. Okay. Okay. All right. So yeah. So Venner, what Will's asking, they're asking, well, what if I have a folder, right? This is the point of folders too. This is why I am using folders on every single piece that I do. I am using these folders. It is just a changer for me for production wise, and I'm not wasting our time naming them. Okay? And so what it is here, I'm even going to collapse the folders here. We have the ability to do this by folders. I can click on the gear, and then that's what this first option is. Transpose set is automatically turning on Pizza Box Party, and then every subtool that's in that folder is automatically visible to move, scale, rotate, and then everything else automatically gets, right, in essence, unselected. But now the beauty is I can go back and go, okay, not just this folder, let's add now, transpose add the other folder. And so now I'm moving 2 folders at the same time, not just one. So if you guys had something like, 15 folders, you can actually go and move 5 folders, 10 folders, 11 folders, 8 folders, all at the same time. Scale those, rotate all those at the same time. Okay? So this is something that I also, while I do this, and let's say I do this, and now I'm like, oh, okay, now I don't want this folder to move anymore. This folder, the second folder, I click on the gear, and that's what the transpose sub is. It subtracts select those subtools in that folder from this, and now see I'm moving those, and those other ones stayed put. So we have the options here to do what we want to do. For me, this is how I like to use it. And in fact, I use this to pose my hard surface stuff too inside of ZBrush. It just makes more sense. It's easy to do. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? So, and as far as E.H. Edmonds, you're asking how would you mirror a rotated object using one of the object's local axes? That's pretty easy to do for sure. Okay, so let's undo this. It doesn't even really matter. We can stay like this if you want to. Okay, and let's just do this, and let's select these boot. Let's check the knee pads. Okay, so number one, you're going to need symmetry, right? So you can see if we sculpturally, right, you can see where my symmetry is. Let me see. Let me just make sure you guys can see it pretty well. Okay, so you can see my cursor's on the left. Okay, the left screen left, his right, but screen left knee pad. And then there's a red square all the way over on the other side, right? Which is just sitting there in space. Because by default, ZBrush is looking symmetrically at the world space, i.e. this green line is the center of the world. So that's why when I'm doing this, you can see the cursor now screen right and that squared little dot screen left, okay, are sitting in the exact same spot in the world. First of all, do you understand that, right? To make sure you understand this. So what I want to do now is you're asking, well, I want to rotate, right, based upon the model's individuals, right? So if I now go try and rotate this, right, you're getting this kind of a thing because it's based upon the rotation of where this is sitting. So if this is sitting here, and now there's symmetry, and now we are making some modern art, baby. Yes! Yes! It's because now I have a symmetry, right? And it's just messing it up. So you want, number one, the thing you want to do is now change the way, first, the way symmetry is being looked at. So all you need to do is turn on local symmetry here. That's it. That's your number one thing you're going to want to turn on there. Is I want you to locally look at these knee pads as individual shells. Don't look at the world anymore. So now if you'll notice, when I go and now put my cursor, right? Notice now the other side is sitting where I want it to sit, right? So when I sculpt on this knee pad, it's sculpting on the other knee pad. And this is also going to go into play for my gizmo. And so now if I want the center of this, that's what this icon is right here. This is center. So that just moved the gizmos to be dead center of the bounding box of these two knee pads. But it's being done individually now. If I come out of symmetry and do this, you'll see the gizmo snaps to the center between the two knee pads. If I turn symmetry back on and tap on that, see they go back. And in essence, we have two gizmos now. Okay, and then now when I rotate, right, they're going to act more as individual pieces. And also when I go to scale, right, and scale these up and down. And then this is now they've crossed over. That's why it's stretching like that. Okay, so this is now, but see, individually can be now rotated, moved, scaled. And they're not, if I turn local off, I start scaling, see they move away from me. They move also. With local on, it changes the world for you. Okay. What is that? E.H. Edmonds, I think you're asking that question. That should answer it for you. Okay, so moving on then. Let me continue down. Okay, so here is another great question that came through. Is how can I adjust the root of a fiber mesh? All right, so you guys might not be aware, and raise of hands, go ahead, raise your hand. Who's used fiber mesh? And 1, 2, 3, raise your hand. All right, I see there's a lot of people raising their hands. Great, super, fabulous. I don't see, unless you guys do a hand emoji, right? So, when you guys do this, or okay, well, if you're going to use something like fiber mesh, let's use him. Let's do this. And just because we're talking about fiber mesh, I'm going to do one of my favorite things for fiber mesh. One of my favorite features of fiber mesh is doing something very cool. Right? So I'm going to do this. Let's go ahead and click build up. Let's start saying, I'm going to give this guy a beard. And he's maybe a soldier from the Civil War. Little Abraham Lincoln like. Right? So he's going to have a nice beard. I'm just going to start sculpting up a nice looking beard shape. Okay, so this is obviously starting to give me a sculpting approach to a beard, right? But what we want is not a sculpted approach. We want actual fibers. Yes. Why not? There. Yes. There. This is a very interesting beard for sure. Just coming off his face like that. Yes. Perfect. Let's give him also a little bit of let's give him a little bit of a mustache in here too. Maybe not as strong. Just enough. Right? Just a little bit in here. Yeah, there. Maybe a little stubble. A little bit what I got going on right now. Like I like to call this lazy face. Lazy face. I didn't feel like shaving. Lazy. Okay, so something like that. Let's even give him some eyebrow. You look weird without eyebrows, right? So let's go a little bit stronger, and then slowly a little bit, and then shorter bursts, smaller. Okay, perfect. Okay. So what's really great about this, what I love, when you guys go and create some fiber meshes, okay, when I hit preview, I get fiber mesh everywhere. Okay, you guys also now know there's fiber meshes being built inside, right? So I don't want that. I don't want display properties double turned on. I want to make sure this is also happening because I don't want any fibers. Why waste that? It's inside. No one's going to see that anyways. Okay? So now I'm going to go to fiber mesh and hit preview, and you can see it's very different now. See, the fibers aren't shooting out. They're only shooting out this direction. There's none shooting inward into the model. Okay? So right now we're just getting fibers everywhere. Okay? And it looks at polygon size. It looks at multiple things. What I'm going to do now is this. I'm going to switch my morph target back to just the demo head. And then now go to morph fiber mesh. Okay? And now I'm going to have this. But now I'm going to tell fiber mesh, okay, to only look at the morph target. And then voila, I've now got fibers only where I sculpted. So it's now looking at the original model that I stored a morph target in where there was no sculpting change. Okay. And then now it's only going to give me fibers. And if you notice, the length is also being controlled by the sculpting that I did, how much I pulled it out. So now it's just like, okay, what kind of fiber meshes do I want? I'm going to go bigger just so you guys can visually see better. And I'm going to go with less, just so it's just easier for you to see in the stream. Let's give it some color. Yeah, why not? Let's give it some green. Hey, he's cool. He's hip, man. He's got blue. It's like I'm doing, you know, today's dates. Oh, those kids, we've all got dyed hair. Okay? And so when you guys now go to accept this, all right, there is something happening with this new subtool. You can see this one says fibers 14. We are tagging this inside of ZBrush. So in essence, ZBrush knows this is a fiber mesh. And now there are certain things you can do to this that you cannot do to any other mesh because it's tagged as a fiber mesh. With that said, you can hurt and destroy that tag by doing things like dividing, splitting it up, right? Using group splits and things like that. We'll delete the tag. But what the tag does for me is say, hey, you know, okay, blue's cool. Okay, but what I really want is to put a texture on this, right? But you can see there's no UVs. So I can go now to UV map. Okay, I'm going to go to create and hit this button. See, there's a fiber UV. And then now, see, now I've got UVs. Boom. Grab a texture. Let's use this. And now you can see that texture is being applied across every single fiber. Right, so if I had stuff like a feather or anything like that, this is what you're going to get now. Okay, it's something like that. Right, so again, what do I want across there? Okay, so this is the beauty of fibers, is it's tagged something. What that also means, if I switch to the grooming brushes, okay, these are brushes made specifically for messing around with the fiber mesh. So it knows that there's a tag on this mesh of being a fiber mesh. So if I do like groom hair toss, this is where the question now comes into play. If I'm grabbing this, you can say I can just toss around these fibers, but notice the fibers aren't ever coming off the surface. And also notice the fibers don't change in length. No matter how much I pull on these, their length is being maintained. Compared to if I switch to a move brush, see, it's just changing it. Okay? So it's because there's a tag on this. And so what we've done is we've built a system wrapped around this. So this hair toss in the brush palette, there's a whole menu called fiber mesh. And this is what it's looking at. It's looking at these sliders and going, okay, you have turned up some sliders here in this fiber mesh menu for this particular brush, and one in particular, preserve length. So the preserve length being at 100 is why when I pull on this, they never change in length. If I want a little bit, then I drop this down, and now it'll just slowly change. It's not a lot, but it will, because I'm allowing the length to change. So that's what this is. This is allowing, do I want the length to change? See, I can now change the length. So every time I keep pulling, see, I can change the length. That's what that slider's doing. So what a lot of you might not know is besides this, right, you can already see two ways I showed you this tag being important. Showing you with UVing. Now I'm showing you in the whole brush palette. You can make any brush, and if you want to turn it into a fiber mesh brush, then you want to use this menu, right? And you want to be looking at all these settings right here to control this. What also is happening is in your auto masking menu, there's a button called auto mask fiber mesh. So by default, we are masking that very first polygon at the root. And we're not allowing you to move it. But we're doing it based upon a button. We're not actually physically masking. We're doing one of our auto masks. So if I turn this off, now I see I can start pulling the fibers away from the body. So it's still tagged as a fiber, But now you can see the difference. This is why we have it on by default. Because if you guys were to do this, you'd be like, whoa, why is that going off the face so much? That's why it's on by default. Okay? So there's that tag. That's going to answer the question that came through, which was how can I adjust the root of a fiber mesh? You got to make sure you turn that button off if you want to go adjust the root. With that said, though, let's not forget this is still tagged. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the painting right now. So we're just looking at this. Okay? And in fact, let's recreate. Let's put a little bit more in him. Let's go and do a little bit more. Let's go back to fiber mesh. Let's do a preview. This time it's going to do it white. Let's do some more fibers this time, just so there's some more volume in there. Okay, and I'll go bigger coverage. Okay, and then I'm also going to add more segments. And I'm going to get rid of most of the twist. I'm just going to put a little bit of a twist in there. Okay, and then I'll get more aggressive with playing with the gravity. So maybe it sticks out a little bit more now. Okay, I like this one. I'm going to accept this one. And this is asking, do you want to go in fast preview mode? Okay, I'm going to say no. Okay, so all I did with segments is I add more topology in each one of the fibers. That's important because something else I want to show you guys is this. I've now got this fiber mesh, right? So if we look at just this, you can clearly see a face already happening in here, right? So what also you people can do, which is really, really nice, is in masking, there is obviously a mask by fibers, right? So I can do mask everything and then fiber on mask. So if you notice, only the tips now, right? See, there's only parts of it being masked and unmasked, right? I can do also just fiber mask it. And now all the roots are masked off on the tips. So if I want to play with this, I've got a graph, right? So I can adjust this and then see now it's really only the tip from a couple of the spans from the tip backwards can be moved. Right? That's what this is doing. And then of course I can flip it. And then now it's the opposite. Right? So you can see barely being movement. And see now the roots have all the movements. And the tips barely have any movement. Because the mask, so I would probably need, if I want to do this, I would probably do something more like that. Maybe more like this. And now mask. Right? And see now you can have different results with this. Okay? So that's because it's tagged. So unmasking is if you've already got a mask, like I do now, see I've masked off a portion of them, and you hit fiber mask on mask. Now it only applies it to these. Because these fiber meshes were originally masked off. It ignores these ones now over here to the left. It's only looking at the ones that I masked off like this. And so you see I'm only really playing with the tips now. So it's just a way for guys, if you guys ever wanted to do this, where you're trying to like kind of groom it, this is the kind of stuff that will come in handy for that. Especially, obviously, a lot of you are probably seeing hair cards in the gaming world right now. Okay, so there's that question. Done, right? So those are all my pre-questions. What was that, 8 questions? And obviously, we branched off into a lot of other things here. Okay, and so let me see. Did I miss anything coming through the chat? Rio, Cristo, you were saying actually keep the pattern as the ring and remove the plain band underneath. Are you talking about when I grabbed the torus and I made the little spheres all over it? Okay, hold on. Now I'm reading your question. Take an alpha and use it make a pattern on a band in an array, say 8 or so, and then possibly rotate them to overlap each other to add texture. Well, I would probably use a remesh to do that, Rio. That's what I would do. Right? So that's what I would do. Um, is my audio gone bad now or something? Because I see someone saying, please increase your audio. And you guys had said from the beginning, my audio was great. Right? So to your question, Rio, are you still here? I don't know if you're still here or not. So hit me up. Like if we were talking about this, I would use a remesh to do something like this. Okay? Oh, my. Oh, hey, Rick. Send me the image in here in chat, Rick. Put the link to what you're talking about. Do you have a link to it? Because I can't. Getting to my emails is going to be a whole nother task. I'm not on a computer that I really go to my emails with. Hold on, let me see if I can get logged in. I'm assuming you sent it to my Pixologic email address, is what I'm assuming. Let's see, make sure my caps lock's not on. Let me see, hold on. Let me get into my emails here. Let's see if I can find. Okay, I got it. Except there is no, oh, there. Let's see, open a new tab. So you're talking about this. So if you're trying to do a pattern like that and you're trying to put it along something like this, you're going to need to use surface noise and you're going to need to use UVs. If you're just trying to take that image of that pattern and have it going around. If you're just trying to take, in essence, a model of that ring with like in the silhouette of that, if that's where you're going is the silhouette of that shape, then that can be a remesh. That you can do. That would be easier to do that. Okay. So obviously I'd probably want some roundness. So me, you could go about this actually there's a lot of ways you could go about doing what you're asking. If I'm looking at just silhouette wise of what you brought in, and I'm not, because I can just make first the shape. So I would do, say, from what I'm seeing the silhouette, I would do, say, something like this, right? And then you can say, all right, let's even just say here in this case, I can do symmetry radial, and I got 8 of them, right? I can just mask off that pattern, right? And get eight of them, right, where I want them. Okay? So, but you could also, for this, just make this also. So I can mask these off, right? And then that's going to be the silhouette of the pattern. And then it's also following the curvature, and I'm just using radial symmetry to follow the curvature of the torus. Okay? But you can also just make something from that as well, right? You can go at this in a different way. Okay? You're going to want to have some roundness in there. Okay? Let's say, I don't know. Like, I don't even have to do the roundness. Let me just simplify it, okay? I'm going to just make the shape real fast. Okay? That what you're looking for, right? So I'm going to take a cube. Okay, I'm going to say no, no, no. And then I'm going to switch to Z modeler. I'm going to inset. Say something like that, something like that. Then I'm going to Q mesh it in. So there's that, okay? We want it more rectangular, right? So I'm going to actually do a mirror and weld now along the Y. So I get this. I'm going to now do that. And let's now do a deformer just to make things easier, symmetrically. And then now just do this, right? So you see how this is deforming also the shape? See that? So this is why I would switch to just only the gizmo, right? And then switch to now symmetry along the Y, center it. So this goes to even that one question. And now I'm doing this. And see, this is not getting stretched over here. There's no stretch happening here and here. It's very different than the deformer was stretching it because it was just moving those points along. Okay? This is different. I'm just now just straight up moving them. I'm not deforming them. So you want something like, I don't know, say something like this. Back to ZModeler. Okay, and then I want an edge loop here. Okay, so I actually want this along also the X. And I want it to be straight like that. Then I want to take these and do that. Let's say something like that. And then now I'm even going to say polyloop it. Let's go somewhere around. Maybe I'm going to go a little bit more thicker there. And then, I don't know, I'm thinking about putting a pattern in here. Maybe we'll do something like this. Something like that. Okay, so now you have something like that. Right? And now you want that to go in a circular fashion around a ring. What up, Randy Dice? Okay, number one, you'd have to turn this dynamic. I would turn this on to see what does this look like dynamic. Right? Is that really what I'm looking for? So I've turned on dynamic subdiv to see, is that really what I want? Or do I want to start throwing some creasing at this and change this up a little bit? Right? And then I could probably do something more like that. Let's say this is more maybe the shape I'm looking for. And then now you just are not just array mesh it. That's it. Okay, the other thing you're going to have though is this is flat. You need to have some roundness, right, for it to fit nicely around a ring. Okay, but array mesh wise, right, so I say array mesh, and then I would say array, and you want 8 of them. And then I would say, let's rotate them now along the Y. 360 degrees. 360. And then now just move them apart from each other. And then there you go. And that's starting to give that repeat. And then this is a nano. I mean, not a nano. Sorry, this is an array that whatever I do to one, it's going to do to all of them. Okay, and then now I could even say, let's apply the topology, and now let's even use now a deformer, bend curve, and I'm going to say, let's go along the X, make a point, make it symmetrical, and I can even, see, start putting this kind of bend in the model as well. Even though I started squared, I'm using the deformer to give me, in essence, this shape now. Something like that. Right? So that's a way. Hold on, I'm just gonna lock my door. Okay, so I think that's kind of what you were going for. And then now you can put patterns on this. You can do whatever you want to this. Okay? So, but if you've already won it, then think outside the box. Like, grab a cylinder. It's already round, right? It's already got some roundness, and then just use this to your benefit. Build your model off of this then, right? You figure out quickly, the math wouldn't be hard to figure out. Like, I've done that in the past. Okay, I've got 17 divisions. So in essence, what I'd be doing is I would be making this a polymesh and then saying, I only really care about these faces right here, right? And then I don't need those. And then now I build from this. So now I delete hidden. This has already got roundness in it, see? Right? And then now I say back to ZModeler. I can do something as simple now as delete and say I don't want that, and that. There. And I've got the roundness. Turn on dynamic. And then now dynamic even has thickness. So I can have something like that happening. Right out the bat. And so this is a plane in essence. This is not anything. It's just a plane. And then now the new ZBrush, you can even use extrusions, right? And I can highlight the ones I want and I can extrude them out, right? So I can do this symmetrically and then now just extrude out. If I don't want movement like that, then I would say extended sides. So it gives me that, right? and then there, and then now D, and then now you can see there's my shape. Right, and if I don't want to look at it smooth, now you have that, make that a mesh, and then there's my mesh. And it's already got a bend in it. Right, so then now you do your remesh. This I'd probably now unify it so it's there in the middle, and then now do the same thing that I just did. Just how many ever you want, right? Rotate along the Y, 360 degrees. And then now I'm just switching to Gizmo. It's a snowflake! And now just moving them apart wherever I want. Right, and then now that I have this, I can even edit all of this. Right, this is just coming straight off. So these, I can now just move to where I want it to continue the ring. Something like that. Right, and then because I'm low polygon, I can do all this. And then I can say, how about that? Center it. Right, and then I can even adjust and do something like that. It's endless here. And then I can even give this a new polygroup. Right, see these three faces? They're the same three faces. And then down here you can make mesh and see how it gets closed off for you all the way around except to there. Now I can just say here where I hit make mesh, I can close it, and then boom, there you go. And now just dynamic on, and I don't need thickness anymore, and now look at it smooth, and then there you go. Right, there's so many ways to go about this. So many ways. Okay, and the other way would be, another way would be just take this, right? And use something that's new inside of ZBrush. Even too, right? I can, let's take this, all right? And then I'm gonna say, let's turn on, for me, I'm gonna turn on live booleans. I'm gonna switch to, let's use project, mesh project. I'm gonna switch to rectangle, and I'm gonna grab, say, the star. And then now you guys can do this. And then now that star, see, is following the cylinder. And I made it a new subtool at the same time. Okay. Yeah, I'm going fast, unfortunately, Jay, because I have to get going soon. So I was just trying to show and give ideas. Sorry, I'm going so fast. So then obviously now, just turn this back on. Right? Draw out your mask. Right? Oh, I can't. Let me hold, and then there, see? So there's a lot of ways to go about this. There's so many ways to go about that. Right? And then it's projected to an already rounded surface. And there you go. And then if you've already got the ring size, this is going to stop right at the ring size. So you know the ring size is correct. Oh. Okay, thanks. Yeah, normally I like to slow up though, so you guys can at least take in the information. All right, Rick, there you go. You need thickness because you got to 3D print it. You got to have thickness to 3D print it. Okay, it's just, this is why also I'm doing this stream today, kind of like a live Ask ZBrush with you all. So you guys can see stuff live and me trying to do it with you, or see it and then you guys can go and look at, right? So unfortunately I got to get going, but before I do, let me look at if I missed a question in here, right? Don't forget why we're talking about it like this. Don't forget about, watch this. I got to also do this. Watch this. Boom. Look at that. I've got it cutting into the shape as well and giving me that now. Okay. To your thickness, Rick, you're going to have to set it. You got to set it first and then find out and use. If you need thickness, then that's where I would start. If you need thickness to be a certain millimeter, 2.5 or 3.0 millimeters, then there's multiple things that you're going to need to do. You can use Ringmaster to do that, and it would give you the thickness right there, right? But if I don't have it like this, right? I don't have this, right? And let's just say this part right now, right? Only this. These stars. Let's delete the rest. Hold on, what am I doing? My brain is fried. It's really time for me to leave. Okay, so this is where I would start using the plugin Scale Master, right? And then I would say set scene. This is in a millimeter world. Boom, right? And then now this is set in a millimeter world, which, by the way, ZBrush is millimeter, okay, in the world. And now geometry, I can turn on dynamic, and I can just give it thickness, but I want the thickness to be, like, where do I want this thickness to be? So you see how kind of it's both the front, it's moving kind of like both ways, like this. I'm going to do this and make the offset only go out. So now it's only moving, see, outward. And then obviously negative is only going inward. So I go outward, right? And now because I've set with Scale Master the scene, what it also did is set this transpose line. So if you look at the top up here, right? This is giving you now measurements in millimeters. So whenever you drag this out, right, you can see your measurements that you want, right, in here. Okay? So right now, this is a really tiny. So I can say, no, I want to resize this. Okay, this ring needs to be a lot bigger than this. Let's say it needs to be 50, right? And everything updates. And now I'm going to resize just that. And then now this is going to be a lot bigger, right? And then now when you're doing this gizmo, right, this is probably, well, I don't know. I'm just picking a size right now. See, and you can even do this with this. I can click, and I can wait until I get to whatever millimeter size you want. I'm just looking at the top. This is just one way. And then say there's 2 millimeters. So now I just make my thickness, right? I keep going until it gets out to that line. Just one way. And then I say apply, and then now I've got a real mesh with that thickness. And then now I can even take this snap point. See, it's 2 millimeters. There, and that's 2 millimeter. There, so that ring is 2 millimeters. I needed all the weld now. So this is where what we talked about earlier. Everybody, this is why I would use, I don't need to dynamesh this. That's not really necessary. I don't have to do that because I can just come here and say remesh by union. Okay, I got to turn off symmetry. Okay, and then now it'll weld everything for me there. It's one mesh now. That's it. Done. Send to print. Okay. Hopefully that helped clear it up some more too. Yes, Ian, you can control it. Like, this is all recorded, so you guys will be able to watch it on our YouTube channel or our Twitch channel again. Watch it anytime you want, at any speed you want. And then, obviously, you guys can, here, email me if you have any questions about something. So, this was just me doing a live Ask ZBrush, in essence. So, let me give you my email address. Yeah, but Rick, I would use, you don't need to do it this way. Just go get the Ringmaster plugin. It'll do all this already for you. It'll already give the ring size and give the thickness you need. Just go grab that plugin. That's what it's made for. It was made specifically for making rings. Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching. Thanks for being a part of this stream. Hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you learned a lot. Hopefully you took away some tricks and some tips. Continue sending in your questions to the hashtag AskZBrush to Twitter. That's where I was grabbing all these original questions. Okay, and we'll continue to do streams like this where I'm just going to answer those questions live and then also take questions as we're going. Right, so this has been a lot of fun. Hopefully you all took a lot away.